Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for joining us back on The Big Thing. This is going to be a fun episode for me and for you because I have my buddy Navid McIhilargey, producer. Met him at Silver Pictures years ago, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things. I have questions about streaming and how that's changed the business. Will Matrix 4 work? We both worked at Silver Pictures. We were both there after the Matrix came out, but the question is, will it work? Do people want another Matrix? And I want to really get to Navid's expertise. He knows a lot about the business. We've also together have seen it change dramatically from the time we worked together in 2005 until what it is today, and I'd love to get his thoughts on it. He's working with a lot of people that I'm friendly with. He's working with people that we've worked with in the past and other things. I don't know what the hell he can talk about. I don't know what he can't talk about, but we're going to talk to him today. It's going to be a blast. I'm excited about it. You guys should be excited about it too. A lot of you might know Navid from the early Schmodown days and stuff that we did there, but if you don't know a lot about him, you will on this episode because he knows a lot of shit and he's a funny dude. I'm excited to talk to him. He's my pal, and he will be your pal by the end of this one. I promise you, you're going to like Navid. It is The Big Thing, and we'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wednesday, and at this point, we already did New York. Oh, no, that's not true. What the fuck am I talking about? It's Friday's New York. The timing's all fucked up. That's what happens when you pre-tape. It's a pre-tape, but it's a good tape. And this week, by the way, if you didn't know, get on over to this show. I'm just excited. Oh, there it is. Me and Mark, October 8th, the New York Comedy Club. That's well, shit, Mark's going to even be there tomorrow. So the 7th and the 8th, we will be there. And you should, well, if you can get to New York, Navid, you should be there. Oh. And then on Saturday night, the new movie trivia Schmodown champion of the world, Marisol McKee, defends her title against Chance Ellison, and Griffin Newman versus Josh Horowitz in the undercard. Check that shit out. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today because I got my pal. What's up, Navid?
Hey.
How you doing, brother?
Good, bro. How are you?
It's funny how this even came about because we're like, this is you and I texting and saying like, hey, by the way, you want to do the show? It was like, yeah. And my favorite comment that you made, which is not untrue, you're like, you should have me on your show. I tell good stories. I was like, it's true. It's
some
true.
Of them I can say.
Yeah, some of them you can say. There's some that you would not today you'd be able to talk about, but no way. No. But there's so much to talk to you about because, and even when you came in, you're like, what are we talking about? I was like, well, I want to talk about The Matrix. And you're like, I didn't work there when we did The Matrix. It's not what I wanted to talk to you about, though. The thing is that, first of all, before we even get into that, how do you feel about the HBO Max strategy of because as a producer, I'm so I love it, by the way. I love the idea of releasing it the same day and in the theater. And I know that I'm in the minority, but I love it because I'm family. I don't go to the theater much anymore. I go there, and if my wife and I want to watch something, we fucking plop down. Great. I don't feel like I'm out of the loop and I have to wait fucking 2 months to watch it. I can watch it right then and there. That's what I'm excited about with Many Saints in Newark, which at this time I guess I've already watched. Dune, and then The Matrix. Yeah. So as a producer, do you like it or do you dislike this particular strategy of HBO Max?
So that's a really good question. I'm kind of caught in the middle because as a family guy like you, I never have time to go to the movies anymore. Right. The kids, honestly, I've been saying this for years. My kids don't even care. They're just as happy to sit at home and watch something on a phone or an iPad, right, much less on a big screen. The whole idea of going to the theater and seeing some big spectacle, I feel like even as a family guy who's, pinching pennies or whatever, I still feel like I wish that was as like it used to be years ago.
Right.
But it's going away, and as a producer, it kind of sucks because, I mean, financially, economically, people make money when something does really well theatrically.
Right.
We don't make a lot of money if it does well on Netflix. Because unless you make a sequel.
But isn't that going to change, though? Don't you think the deals will change?
I mean, if the deals change, it's probably just going to get worse.
You think so?
Well, because right now, I don't know if you or your viewers know this, but they buy out back-end profit participation.
Yeah, isn't that what happened? That's what happened with Scarlett Johansson, right? With all this stuff that was going on.
Yeah. Effectively, they go to you and go, okay, look, this movie, you in my movie might have made $100 million in the theaters, but you're not going to get any of the gross or the net definitions, the profits from that. Yep. So we'll just give you X amount up front. It's kind of like a bonus, right? Disney's already crunching those.
Okay.
They're already squeezing those extra bonuses and stuff. but it going back to your question about theatrical. I mean, financially it sucks.
Yeah.
But people weren't really going to the movies anyways, and then the pandemic hits, and then literally
nobody was going to the movies, right?
So in some respects, I love the idea. I do think collapsing windows is probably a good idea.
30, 45 days, yeah.
Because
that's what it's going to
be. I think that's what it's going to be,
Yeah.
and that's all about marketing dollars that they spend. You don't want to spend $100 million theatrically and then another $50 million marketing it 3 months later.
Right.
I think, if you want to go see it in the theater early, you see it in the theater early. If you don't, you see it at home 30 days later.
Yeah, the way that I looked at it when they announced all this stuff was that people were like, "Oh, HBO Max, they ruining everything." It's like, no, what they did was, and other people don't understand this, is that when all of these movies, Dune, Matrix, when they were all greenlit, they were greenlit with the idea that they're all coming out in the theaters.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic hit and everything happened, they said, well, okay, look, we have this new subscription thing. We got to sell it. We got to get people to subscribe and get the word out there. So let's go balls to the wall. We're going to lose money. We know that. But what kind of subscriber base can we get? What's the word out? Let's do something just crazy and release it the same day in theaters. Because if people aren't going to the theaters, they can watch it at the house. The buzz is there, and let's do it. And people lost their minds that they're doing this, not understanding, like, well, but all these movies are losing money. They knew that. There was no chance that a movie that cost $200 million is going to make that back up. But it's, can you make it back up eventually with all the subscribers that you keep?
I think, look, the timing for them in one respect was good, that they were launching it and they had all these great movies that they couldn't put out in theaters. They were either going to have to hold them for a year or do it, right? In that respect, it was great. And I think their subscriptions went up because of it. But they paid for it. I don't know if everybody knows this, but they went back and had to renegotiate all these deals.
Right.
And I've heard numbers that seem bananas.
What have you heard?
I mean, I heard one person say they spent as much money as they did in production giving bonuses. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I guarantee it's a size
chunk.
20,
but don't you think that the idea there for them to say, look, maybe it's worth it because it's like you're getting these people to subscribe, and it's every month. So if you're pleasing people, they're just going to stick around. And more shit you make, it's like you're eventually, whether it take 5, 10, you're going to get that money back because the more people that keep coming in. And I did this poll for the audience when we were talking about streaming last time of what your favorite subscription services was, right?
Yeah. Well,
5 years ago, it was Netflix.
Right.
I saw a lot of number ones as HBO Max.
Yeah.
I saw a lot.
Yeah.
And like HBO,
and it's really user friendly.
Super user friendly.
I love it. I mean, after you use HBO Max and you go back to places like Netflix, you're like, wait, this sucks.
HBO Max and Disney Plus are my favorite.
Yeah.
HBO Max because it's got everything that I like, and all I was doing was watching Sopranos for the last 3 months, right? But there's always movies that I can find that I like. It's not like I feel like a lot of different places you keep scrolling through shit and you never find anything.
Yeah.
There's always something on HBO Max that you can find, so I love it.
They have
there.
a good library,
great library, and their original stuff is really good. The scenes from a marriage I've been watching recently.
I know I have to. It's brutal.
Mayor of Easttown was awesome.
Yeah.
So they're doing it right, and HBO always did it right as far as series went. But now this allows them to get back into that game. Netflix, to me, it was funny because I said I was going to cancel Netflix, and then someone said, "What about Cobra Kai?" I'm like, "Oh, I can't cancel it." And they're like, "What about Stranger Things?" I'm like, "Oh, I can't cancel it." There's a lot of shit on Netflix I do like. I just feel like they have so much shit.
Yeah.
And then Disney Plus, not only because of the Star Wars stuff and the Marvel shit, but my daughters, they love it. It's perfect. So
no, I know, especially that young.
Yeah.
I think, two things. One, I think what probably will happen is there's either going to be a window for certain kind of movies, or it'll be more of what Disney's doing, which is you charge a premium. There's no way HBO is going to just keep putting them free on both at the same time.
What I don't like about that Disney thing, though, I don't like that because, if anything, I would prefer HBO Max upping their subscription a little bit and saying, because right now it's like what, $7.99 or some shit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If HBO Max was like, okay, look, we're gonna still do the thing, or maybe the same release schedule that we're gonna do, or it's a month later, but it's gonna cost you $10 or $11 now. I'd be like, okay, I don't like this thing that Disney does where it's like $30 on, because I'm already a subscriber. So it's like Black Widow comes out, I'm already a subscriber, now they want to charge me another $30. I get it if you're putting it on Amazon. If it's on Amazon and it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to be able to get it here, but you can get it on Amazon for like $20, $30. Okay. You put it on Disney Plus, I subscribe already. give it to me. That's one. It should be a perk.
I hear you. I just don't know if that's the way it's going to.
Probably not. Probably not. But
especially for the big ones.
Yeah, if anything, but I think that it's going to change once, like you said, and because of the way things are shot now, and the way that and budgets are going to be different now, because budgets, like I said, used to be for theatrical release, and now budgets are going to be, well, let's aim for streaming. This is what's going to be streaming. Costs are going to come down for certain things. I actually think it's going to benefit films, and I'm curious if you feel the same way here, because like my favorite Terminator movie is the first one.
Yeah.
And I think that it's because of the practical effects. They focus more on like the horror story, the element. I love the second one, but I think that we've gotten away from that pure kind of filmmaking, that maybe they'll be forced to do it more so. Like, did you watch any Mandalorian?
Yeah, of course.
The Robert Rodriguez episode was fantastic, and the stuff that they're doing with what's called the Void. I don't know, the Void or whatever the fuck that thing is. That Katie was talking about, but that technology is great, but the fact that he shot on locations and shooting the volume, thank you, and shooting that kind of stuff. Do you think that this, because of the streaming and the budgets, will get away from these $200 million movies? I mean, I know we'll have some still with Marvel and everything running around, but and force you to do that kind of old school shit?
Well, this was part 2 of what I was going to talk to you about.
Yeah.
So I teach at USC.
Yeah.
And this new semester, this is all we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks.
Streaming.
I teach a business class and I teach a producing class. Yeah, it used to be 10, 12 years ago, and I have a funny Netflix story, don't forget to tell you. 10, 12 years ago, there was 2 kinds of movies being made. The $100+ million ones that were all, by that point, it was like it has to be IP-based. It has to, like IP.
Or The Rover.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a great movie, but it's like $4 on a Snickers bar.
Or the things that you made independently.
Right.
Now there's 3. There's the big spectacle IP, spend a lot of money marketing them. There's streaming movies.
Yeah.
And there's independently financed films, which have shrunk and gotten crunched. The streaming ones, I like this Red whatever it is with The Rock, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's cool, but I don't think I don't know, but I don't think streamers are going to keep doing those, because I mean, why go spend $250 million? It's not like you're getting more and more subscribers just to go watch it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like at some point, it's going to be like, all right, people are going to stay around for the kinds of movies you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And I think Apple's doing it. Apple's like doing really high-end, director-driven.
Even that sci-fi show that they just did recently too. The one that was
Foundation.
Yes.
One of my favorite book series.
Okay, have you watched the series yet?
No, I was dying to. My fiance has no interest, so I have to.
Isn't that a fucking bitch? That's the same shit that I go through with, dude. It's like, because you only get a certain amount of time with them, and it's like a negotiation to figure out what the fuck you're gonna watch. It's true. Anyway, but go ahead, you were saying.
So I do think that like the way these streamers are going to survive, because you said it, you were going to shut off Netflix, and Netflix's quality, I don't want to say it's gone down, but it's like there's a lot of stuff and it's hard to find the
very
gems,
hard
right?
to find stuff.
And it's funny because Apple started like a year ago, right? And they started acquiring content and doing, and it was like, at first I look at them like, and then you realize the type of content it is, and it's what you're talking about. It's really like high end, director driven, a lot of movie stars, but really good quality. And it's the kind of shit that like, Ted Lasso, like it's the kind of thing that you're like, I will watch that over and over and over again, and I will subscribe to Apple forever.
Right. And don't you get it anyway if you have an Apple account? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you buy a phone, I got a free whatever.
You're right. So I mean, that's the my wife watches the morning show. I missed the first season, and she's already in season 2. So Ted Lasso, she couldn't get on board with me.
No, dude,
I know.
No.
I know.
It's the best show on TV.
Listen, I watched like the first 4 episodes and liked it a lot. I'm gonna probably have to just do it myself and watch it.
Make her watch it.
She won't do it.
Season 1 is really good. Season 2 is incredible.
She won't do it. She's like, I don't get the hype. I don't get it. No, so if you see her on the way out, you can talk to her about it, but it ain't gonna work.
I'm gonna yell at her.
You should. But you started fucking. Why didn't you watch Ted Lasso, motherfucker? She's like, whoa. She's got the dog in her hand. She drops it. But Netflix. Tell me the Netflix story.
Oh, so this is how fast this all changed.
Yeah.
So you and I worked together at Silver.
Yeah, we're gonna tell that He-Man story in a second too.
I just talked about that story this week in class.
Okay.
That's when like IP was like, oh shit, everything had to be about IP.
Yep.
And then so the middle range movies kind of just started going away.
Yeah.
By the time after Silver, I went to New Regency, and after New Regency, I was tired of the studio system. And I was like, I'm going to go make independent movies, because I felt like at least there, if I got a good script and I put it together, I could. Not realizing that those budgets were getting harder and harder, right? I was running this independent company, and upstairs was this new company called Netflix. And by the way, this was exactly almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2000. It was right when you left. It was right after you left Silver, right? So
No, after Regency. So it was not even 10 years ago because it was March. So this March will have been 10 years. So it was 9.5 years ago.
Okay.
I'm running this company, and I go upstairs to meet with Cindy Holland, the head of Netflix, and literally there was like 5 people in this office, right? And I had my head of features with me and head of TV with me, and she goes, "Bring us TV shows." And I remember leaving, looking at the TV guy, going, "Why the fuck would we give her TV shows? They mail out people DVDs, right?" And this was 9.5 years ago, and it was like a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years later when House of Cards came out. And by that point streaming had started, but nobody knew what it was.
Yeah,
Netflix was 5 people, well, maybe a little more than that, in an office upstairs. Less than 10 years ago.
It just shows you battle plan, man. It's all about battle plan
and money.
Battle. Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
that a shit ton of money.
And they were able to. They talk House of Cards. Or Game of Thrones. They fucking took out Blockbuster.
Yeah. Well, by the way, that's another one. Do you know that Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy Netflix?
Yeah.
For $50 million and passed.
Yeah. They talk about bad battle plan.
Yeah.
Bad game plan. Like and then the same stuff. The mailing out the DVDs. They didn't want to do it. They thought. Because that's what happens with people. They get comfortable in their ways, and they don't realize when the shift is coming, right? And Netflix was the shift, and Netflix looked at the shift. Give me TV shows, do this, because they wouldn't have survived on just the physical media. Because look at that, and look at the way that they did it. And now everybody followed the footsteps of Netflix, because that's what always happens, right? They're like, well, remember, look at TiVo.
Yep.
Like TiVo, no one talks about TiVo. TiVo was the first motherfucker that was pausing and stuff, pausing TV. Yeah. No one talks about TiVo. It's always because that's just what you can do now. You can do it on any. It's just part of the technology. Yeah. And that's what Netflix was able to do. But now I remember talking about this on Collider, where we were saying the streaming wars. And I was like, nah, it's going to take a while for people to catch up to Netflix. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Because as you said, with money and with stars and with names, like look at Disney. Like Disney came right out the gate, and because of all the big IPs that they have with Netflix.
I'm just surprised how long Disney took to get there, and HBO
to get there, or to get. You mean to launch?
To launch,
yeah.
I mean, you'd think that you see a Netflix taken off 8 years ago, and you almost immediately turn around and have your own.
Because I think it's that old school mentality of movies. Movies is
studios operate like,
and movies are the key. Like remember when we were doing like the simple thing of schmoes. And how people are like, you're doing movie reviews on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? People write reviews. No one's going to watch you talk about movies. And now people react to trailers, and it gets millions of views, right? So the medium has just changed completely, and it always is, and it's the people who are jumping on it. But going back to the Disney thing is that you look at like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? I remember for sure 100%. There was a script done. Director Billy Elliot was doing it. They were going to announce it. Here it comes, and then it just kind of goes away. At some point, they had that meeting of maybe we turn this into a series,
right?
And that's the smartest thing they ever did, because I would, you know how much of a Star Wars guy I am. If I never saw a Star Wars movie in the theater ever again, I'd be okay with it, as long as you give me series. I'm getting like 2 or 3 series a year. Yeah. Sign me up.
So it's funny. That's another thing I've been talking about a lot lately is I'm gonna step back real quick. I got to tell you. So about 25 years ago, Paramount used to make those thrillers with like Ashley Judd and Morgan Freeman. Remember like Along Kiss the Girl, the Spiders, whatever.
Double Jeopardy, whatever.
Yeah. And then TV started doing it, right? Like cable companies started creating great cop shows, and like all these series started that were doing what Paramount did, and Paramount stopped making those movies, right?
Yeah.
Because what you found out was like I could take a 2-hour movie and expand it and spend more time. Like think of True Detective. Yep. I spend more time. True Detective was like one of those old movies, just 8 hours, 6 hours of great character study, right? So it's way more compelling and interesting. Yep. I said back then, I was like, holy shit, if TV ever figures out how to do sci-fi and fantasy cheap,
that was it.
It's over.
It's over. And that's exactly what happened, dude. And I'm telling you, like, and I've been talking so much over the last couple of months about The Sopranos, is that The Sopranos, they showed everybody you can make movies on television.
Yeah.
And when that happened, because network is a joke when they try to do it now. Like some shows figure it out, but it's like a miracle now, as opposed to what it was. And because your eyes don't believe it anymore. And it's like, it just doesn't, and then you get a commercial. It's terrible. Like Hulu and Netflix, and with everything out there. I mean, shit, even Battlestar Galactica on Sci-Fi was able to figure that out.
Right.
But nobody. That was the strange thing to me, was that and it was done fairly cheap for what it was, and it looked great.
Yeah.
And nobody really capitalized on it. They were Ronald Moore was gonna do the Star Wars show with Lucas, and then he sold, and it didn't happen. But yeah, you're right, man. Like that, now that they're able to do all this, all the fantasy, and to have the characters develop. That's what I love. I
mean, that's the other hit. Going back to movies and theatrical, that's the other hit. Like, what? I mean, there's still a lot of fun to be had in 2 hours watching something beginning, middle, and end. But if I can sit at home and watch 8 hours of something with the same characters, but way more compelling and more interesting.
Well, I mean, so there's the bigger side of it, or the smaller. Like, if you're going to compare, let's say Mandalorian, right, where you're learning, you're going on this adventure with this guy for 2 seasons in the sci-fi element, learning about it, and you get that kind of old school original trilogy feel. That's that side of it. Then there's that independent feel, even though I don't know how much it costs to make, but it still feels that way as Mayor of Easttown, right? So same thing. You're invested in this thing for a mini series with a great actress, and it's a lead up. And everybody always talks about how back in the day, TV actors were kind of looked down on by the film actors. Now, Julia Roberts is doing TV now. Like everybody does TV now, and it's so.
I'm having the hardest. I'm casting 7 movies right now and can't get anybody to be in them because they're all doing series. They're doing series, or they're getting overpaid to do some big theatrical thing or some IP driven thing.
Well, do you think about ever like? Because so, what are you at the moment? You're doing movies. Do you think about doing that switch to TV?
I mean, I'd be an idiot if I didn't.
Right.
I don't want to be the guy that's chasing the trend after the trend's already happening,
right?
Because you're too late. Like I kind of did that.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was like, oh shit, I should be at a place that has a bunch of IP, and then I went to New Regency and we didn't have any IP. I had to try to find it and build it.
Right.
And then I went into the indie world, and the indie world was getting crunched harder and harder. I at that time wanted to go into TV, and that was again like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And tried, but if you're not a creator or a piece of talent, or if you don't own now, TV's getting to be all about IP again.
Yeah.
For me, I want to go into TV, but for me to do it, I'm going to have to find the He-Man or whatever the hell it is to, find a piece of IP, get a big showrunner involved. Nobody gives a shit about me in TV.
It's about the name and the IP, right? And isn't it crazy? And we always talk about on this show how back in the day it was always movie star driven, and now it's IP and director driven.
It's like what movies were 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and it's director driven too. Like, like directors are the stars is what I always say. Like when Nolan makes a movie, you don't give a shit what it is. It's a Nolan movie. Tarantino, there's a lot of directors that are a few of them that are doing that. That you will go out and Kathleen Bigelow is one. So, when you look at all and to watch a lot of these, you look at someone like Rian Johnson, which I know so a lot of in the geek world, a lot of controversy around Rian Johnson because of The Last Jedi, but he's a fucking great TV director. The stuff he did in Breaking Bad, to see him do more stuff, and he's doing
One with the Fly.
He did, but he also did Osmandius or whatever, which is one of the greatest epissodes in television ever. Nobody talks about that. They just talk about like, well, Luke shouldn't have thrown the lightsaber, and which I agree with, but that's all they talk about. But the thing is, with him directing and him doing this, and he's doing the Netflix movie with the Knives Out. He made the shift to put them on Netflix.
Well, I'm fascinated by a lot of these because it's happening more and more where branded movies, because it happened with The Exorcist as well. Like these movies that are IP, big pieces of IP, they don't give a shit anymore who makes them. Because they sold. I mean, I think Universal's doing Exorcist now. I think for $400 and something million for 3 of them.
Oof.
Yeah. And
trying to get that Conjuring audience, huh?
But it's IP again. If you have the IP and you can repurpose it in some way.
But if the first one sucks,
I'm doing it right now. Something I can't talk about.
Okay,
but I'm doing it with a title. And
you got a title that you're able to do. That's awesome. Well, it's a lot. Let's go back to the streaming stuff because with the big IP, and speaking of IP, The Matrix, right? So, Silver Pictures really. Because they had Die Hard, obviously. They had Predator. They had all that stuff in the 80s that built up Joel's name and all this. Even Weird Science and all this stuff. But it was The Matrix that gave him like his own Star Wars, right? When did you join? You joined Silver Pictures in 2004?
Yes.
Do you remember? I don't think you. We've talked about this, but I don't think you remember. Like, when I started working there, I started working for David Gambino and Eric Olson. But about a year before or 6 months before you were looking for an assistant, you found Jesse. But before that, so I actually interviewed with you. Did you know that?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I interviewed with you.
Did you?
Yeah. And you gave me some bullshit excuse, which is now knowing you was definitely bullshit. But you're like, yeah, I just. When you called me, I remember exactly where I was in my old apartment, and you're like, "Yeah, I just feel like we'd hang out too much."
Oh, that was true.
Yeah, well, and which is ultimately what we wound up doing.
Jesse, I wouldn't have hung out,
which is actually true. But we wound up hanging out.
I'm just joking.
How many times did we wind up going to Vegas together and hanging out all the damn time? So it was like it was a lot of fun. But
there's some stories we can't repeat.
No, not at that time. But before, and I do want to tell. I've told the story about the He-Man stuff that I'm going to tell today because you were there. Yeah. You were there during all of it. So if I usually tell the story the true way, but if there's any things that you have to say, oh, but then this happened and this happened, we'll get into that. But Matrix. So you get there in 2004. Matrix is coming off of the third movie, and in 2000, well, shit, they released two of them. That was something nobody did. They released two in summer and then the other one in November. And everybody's excited about it. They don't do well critically.
Right.
And then, it just, but Joel built his name. People didn't realize that the shit, when we worked there, man, they were like, you can attest to this. They usually make a movie, a production company will make a movie, like once a year, once every 2 years. They were making 3 movies a year.
Yeah, at least. Yeah,
at least.
Yep.
And it was that shit don't happen anymore.
No.
It was crazy. And then I was working for 2 motherfuckers getting paid like $500 a week.
Yeah.
It was a joke. But either way, The Matrix comes out. So we never think that we're going to see another movie because of the way that it ends.
Yeah.
Then they announce the Wachowskis are going to do it. When you hear it, do you say that makes sense for today, or why?
I say that makes sense for today,
right. And it's just Lana that's doing this one, right? It's not both.
I don't.
I think
know. I think you're right. You might be right, but and they were developing. I know there was a point where they were developing a couple different versions of how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for today. I don't know that I wouldn't have. I mean, I'm sure they have plans to do this, but I would do like thinking about what they did with Star Wars. What is the TV series spinoff?
Yeah.
What
so they're doing it June.
Yeah. And like, why not, right? And so if it's why not to a TV series and why not to a movie? I mean, I just hope where they're going to shoot themselves in the foot is if they don't go back to what the first one was. And I think the trailer looks like
they're going right back to it, and I think that they're going back to the basics because and I feel, you tell me if you think I'm right or wrong, but I feel that if they stick the landing with this one, does exactly what you're talking about.
They'll be able to do 1 billion of them.
They can do 1 billion of them, but. Yeah. If it sucks, it's over.
Yeah,
you're going to run into the Terminator Die Hard thing where you're just, well, this one's going to be good, and then it sucks, and then it's like, well, now because if you can, we'll be forgiving for it. Like if for 2 and 3, some people love 2 and 3. I just think they're all right, but like if this one's awesome, it's like get me back into the Matrix.
Well, not to digress, but I think the problem with 2 and 3, like number 1 was like, oh my God, what if we do live in the Matrix? Like it was a relatable idea and had really cool action that you've never seen that before. I remember in 2 and 3, there was shots of with Keanu like spinning on a stick and him like running around, and it looked like someone etched it with a crayon.
Yeah,
and then the people in the white suits and it just was like so outside of the realm of anybody giving a shit.
Yeah, they went too far. It's almost like they care too much about let's be more cool, more out of the box, and instead of focusing on the simple.
Unrelatable.
It is, and when you go to the first one, even though some people think that the first one is so complex, it really isn't. It's just like when you look at what it is and you pay attention to it. It's pretty simple. Here's this, but it's with all the philosophies and all. Yeah. It is very similar to what Star Wars did. With all these different philosophies, pulling from different movies, and so if they go back to that, and I didn't, the TV series is an interesting thing because the question is, do they spin off? Do they put Keanu in it? I don't know. You don't necessarily need to. I don't know how they're going to play this or what Neo is, what he's done. But I'm curious about it, man. It looks fantastic, and it's not. And what's refreshing about it is that it's a big IP. It's a big sci-fi movie that's not Star Wars, that's not Marvel, that's not DC, and that people are excited about.
Yep.
yeah. So
I not only is there the excitement level, some for new viewers, some for like us who are like in. I mean, The Matrix is one of my kids' favorite movies.
Yeah.
So they're like that generation. Like
all of
in
them
between.
or just kids.
No, I think all of them. Scarlett too.
Yeah.
Like they love when they saw it the first time. They're like, "Whoa!" Right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
And that's like a generation. And then there's like a new generation of kids that are going to want to go see it. And and it's like you said, Star Wars. It's like this. And if you do it right,
yeah,
it'll be. And I think they'll do it right.
It's going to be massive, and I think it's going to be the biggest movie for HBO Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say with Dune's coming out too, but Dune, I think is I think it's niche.
Dune has the same problem Blade Runner does. Which was there's a big audience for it, but it's just that audience.
That's right. But I'm excited for Dune though. Yeah. Dune. Did you read the novel
when I was a kid?
You did. No. Okay. So Dune, because the only thing I knew Dune was from the Lynch version,
right.
And
yeah, no, I know.
Wasn't really good. But this looks awesome.
It does look really good.
I'm excited for that one. I'm just going to watch it on that television. That's how I watched the Suicide Squad.
Oh, really?
Did you love the Suicide Squad? I feel like that's right up your alley.
The first one or the second one?
No, the new one.
I watched half of the new one. I haven't finished it.
Oh, you didn't fucking...
No,
it's
funny. A lot of people said that I would. It's not that I didn't like it. I think one night I started watching it and I was like, oh, and it was cool and funny. I fell asleep and then I just haven't gone back to it.
Did you see the part when they go to the village?
No.
Oh my God!
Wait, no, I don't remember.
So, can I spoil it for you?
I was drunk.
Oh, dude, you have to watch it.
Yeah, I will.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
No, spoil it. It's okay. All
right, so if you haven't seen the Suicide Squad, this is a spoiler. So I gave you the warning. I have time codes in there too, so I'll talk about the Suicide Squad. So it's fucking great. Like I sat over there and I've never laughed out loud just by myself like this watching a movie. So fucking they go to have to rescue Joel Kinnaman.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, okay, well, Kinnaman got taken by these rebels. We got to go get him. So they go in there, and so Idris Elba and John Cena are these ruthless fucking killers, and they're just fucking killing everybody. But they're starting to have a contest with each other, and like there's a guy in the bathtub, and they want to electrocute him, and they kill everybody. Yeah. Like it's brutal. Like, all right, these guys, it remind me like Predator. Mm-hmm. So they walk in, they find Rick Flag, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "We're here to rescue." He's like, "These are the people that rescued me." They fucking killed everybody, and he's like, "Oops!" It was brilliant. It was so fucking funny that James Gunn, and it was not like. See, I didn't like Guardians 2.
Yeah,
I didn't like. I think Guardians 2 was like,
Guardian 2 was not good. And he did a great job on 1. 2 was okay.
Yeah, I thought to me 2 was like
3 was awesome.
2 to me, it didn't have 3 yet. There's no Guardians 3.
No, what? Oh, which one am I thinking? Oh, no. I'm thinking of
Thor.
Thor 3.
You didn't like Thor?
No, I love Thor
3 was great.
Yeah.
But Guardians 2, to me, there's funny jokes in it, but it was more like, you get a joke, you get Oprah, right. You get a joke, you get a joke. Everybody gets a joke, and it's like, like, come on. Like in this, the Suicide Squad, when somebody says shit, go back and watch it, dude. It is right up your alley. Yeah, you will love it. It's like old school action. I think that you're probably exhausted with superhero movies, right?
Yeah, not as much as some people, but
yeah, I'm not.
I'm
Yeah, the genre for me works, right? But I can see a lot of purists and a lot of like people inside of the business feel like it was. I don't think it was the downfall. I think it actually is one of the main reasons keeping blockbusters alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but so anyway, with The Matrix, I think that I'll be looking for that one. I'm definitely. I mean, I haven't gone to the movie theater in like 2 years.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to see Many Saints in Newark in the theater, didn't do it. Venom. Didn't do it. There's a lot of the ones I passed up. It's going to be hard for me to pass up The Matrix in the theater.
Yeah, I agree with that. But wait, why wouldn't you go? COVID or?
Yeah, I'm just not ready to go in the movie theater yet.
Oh, because I went to one in the middle of all of it. I went because I couldn't wait to see Nolan's movie.
A lot of people are, but I think it's because of my kids. You know, I got a 4-year-old. You know, so it's like it's if I had just like a 12-year-old or I probably would go. A lot of people feel differently, and that's fine. But I just not ready for it yet. Although it's people could I did stand up, and then went back outside right afterwards. You know, but either way, I do want to get into it with Navid about. I'm going to tell you guys about the story of He-Man. But before we do it, I got to tell you, I am so excited. I've been raving about this shit with you guys, and now I finally get to talk to you about it. Have you ever tried ButcherBox, Navid?
No.
Oh, dude.
What is it?
It is the best. All right. So basically what ButcherBox is that they deliver high quality meat right to your door. And it's whenever you need a great tasting meal that you can trust, it's ButcherBox, and they make it really easy. So they sent this thing to my house, and I opened it up, and I was expecting like, a couple of meals. It's just a box of meat, and really, really good meat. Each box has 9 to 11 pounds of meat of your choosing, and they have either 100% grass-fed and finished beef, free-range organic chicken, humanely raised pork, wild-caught lobster tail, and wild-caught Alaskan salmon, sugar-free bacon. There's no better feeling than knowing that you guys can skip the grocery store because there's a variety of ButcherBox meat already waiting for you in the freezer. Winston Marshall and I were talking about this the other day. This is I am telling you guys to try this because, and I'll be honest, I'm going to give you the selfish reason first, because if you guys get this, I know you're going to love it, but it means that they're going to stick around for a while, and I'm going to eat this stuff for the rest of my life. We had some of this meat for my daughter's birthday. Yeah. I made her these burgers, and my entire family was like, "What is this meat?" I was like,
"Really?
Yeah, it's dude, it's so good." Oh. So good. And for a limited time, ButcherBox is giving new members 2 pounds of free ground beef in every order for the life of your membership. Imagine never having to shop for ground beef ever again. It's a no-brainer because once you sign up, you choose your box and the delivery frequency. They offer 5 boxes, 4 curated box options, as well as the popular custom box, so you will get exactly what you and your family love. ButcherBox ships your order frozen at peak freshness. It's a freaky deal, I'll tell you that, and packed into a 100% recyclable box, and shipping is always free. You enjoy great tasting, high quality meat delivered right to your door. So when they sent me the beef, and we also, for my meatballs, we're doing it. It's like, and it's so much. Like, my wife is always like, I don't know, anytime we get sent something, she's like, I'd rather get it at the supermarket. But then we tasted it. She's like, get more, get more. It's so good. I loved it. Absolutely think it's one of the greatest things that I've ever, since podcasting and learning about ButcherBox, they are one of my favorite companies I've ever worked with already, and we just started. This is your chance. Try it now to never have to shop for ground beef again. ButcherBox is going to give new members free ground beef for life. Sign up at butcherbox.com/trivia and get 2 pounds of ground beef free in every order for the life of your membership. Log in to butcherbox.com/trivia and get the deal now.
I'm texting myself. Hold on.
Yeah, listen.
I'm texting myself that right now.
Butcherbox.com/trivia, dude. It is, I promise you, you will call me after you get this thing, and you're gonna be like, and you'll text me and you'll say, holy shit. When you open it, I got Brett a box, and so he opens it. I was like, there's a lot, dude. It's like they sent me like the beef and the pork. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, you weren't kidding. It's like Christmas. Like, I have meat falling out of my freezer right now, and we use it. It is so good. For everybody out there, try it. And then come back and tell me, like, just get one box. Get one box. And just to see, like, all right, I just got a sponsor. Get it. And then tell me how much you love it. You can say thank you during the comments. It's fine. But use that code. Use the code. Maybe let's get into this He-Man story.
Yeah.
Because, so this is the way I tell it.
Yeah.
And you tell me if you remember it differently or same page. So, in turnaround, for people that don't know what turnaround means, it's basically when a studio has the property and it's available for other people to pick up. They send the script around. They go, John Woo was doing it at Fox,
right?
And so we had this thing called Weekend Read, where we'd get a whole bunch of scripts. We'd read it during the weekend, and then if there was anything that we liked, we would talk about it and see if we'd pick it up. So He-Man comes in, and I was a massive fan of it, and I'm reading the script. I'm like, this is terrible. Mm-hmm. And I said, and I remember,
who wrote it? You remember?
I want to tell you, John Woo wrote it.
Oh wow!
I don't know if that's true, but I know it was definitely it was bad, and it was like Tila and He-Man getting cheeseburgers and shit. It was bad. And I said, I remember going to you, not from ButcherBox. I remember going to you. I remember going to Susan and Susan Downey and David Gambino and Eric Olson and saying, look, this property is good. This script is not.
Right.
And
I remember that.
Yeah, and they're like, everyone's like, well, can we read the script? I'm like, you're not going to want it if you read the script.
Right.
And like, nah, we can't do this. And you said, no one cares about a purple tiger and this. I said, I was like, dude, I'm telling you, this is science meets magic. It's Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings.
That was the thing that got me.
Not at that point. Oh. At that time, you came around. But
I do remember thinking, ooh, nobody's done science.
Yeah, at that time, you said, I don't see it right now. Right. And I was like, okay. So basically, then what I did is I went to no. You were the only one at that company that I thought I had a shot with because you were the big blockbuster science fiction guy, and where Gambino Olsen was more in the horror thing. Gambino was more the crime, like and Susan, you never knew. So then I went to Village Roadshow. My buddy Fred Klein was over there, and I said, if I could get a financer involved, if the financing team was like, okay, we see this, then maybe that's what I could do. So I went with Adam Winkleman at the time, and we have to tell that Tom Hardy Winkleman story later.
Oh my God,
we have to, but we'll tell it later. So then I go, all right. I went to Village Roadshow. Dana Goldberg was running the company at the time. So my buddy Fred was like, I see it, but I don't think Dana will. You should probably go somewhere else. Yeah. All right. So then I was like, well, Legendary's right down the road.
Right.
But not down the road. It was like 5 buildings away.
You gonna tell the Neil part of this story?
So this guy's name, we're going to call him Neil Fuckface. So Neil Fuckface was a guy that I knew met at parties, and so we sat down, me, him, and Mark Riley, who was writing this thing with me. Right. It was Riley, and I think maybe Adam was there for a few of it, but we sat there. It may have been Adam. I don't remember. Either way, we sat there with him going over it, and he was like, this is great. We can get this going. So we were meeting him for weeks.
Yeah.
One day out of the blue, he goes, oh, we can't do this because of Conan the Barbarian. I'm like, you didn't just pick up Conan the Barbarian, but okay. Like, all right. So then you called me in your office, and you're like, I think I get He-Man. I think I get it. Right. And then we talked about Science and Magic, and we talked about, I get it. And Jennison and Strickland had just gotten blown up because of the Wonder Woman script.
Right.
So we went to them and started developing that script with them. And I'll never forget this. We're sitting in your office, and you get a fucking phone call, and it was Justin Marks' agent.
Right.
And he's like, "Are you guys working on that Masters of the Universe thing?" Because him and Neil Fuckface have a thing they've been working on together for a little while. Right. And I always say, Justin Marks, completely innocent in all of this.
No, yeah, totally.
He's just a guy writing who got brought in. I love Justin Marks. I think he's a great dude. Yep. Gets brought this thing by a dude, and it's a great idea. And Justin's a great fucking writer, does what he has to do. But basically, they say, we want to develop this with you. And you remember what happened right there?
No, didn't you throw something?
I didn't. I said, I got up and I started to go, and you stood in front of the door. You said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to Legendary." And he's like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "I'm going to Legendary right now, and I do not care if I lose my job." And you're like, "Dude, sit down. We'll figure it out." and then Adam had to come in, and like this whole thing, and then you made him come in once the deal was made with Mattel. Yeah. You made him come in and apologize to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, do you remember I took myself off the project?
Before that?
Well, right around that time, because Susan was going to give me CE on it.
Right.
And I took myself off it. I said, I don't want to be involved in this. Not if he's involved in it. Right. And it fell apart anyway. But yeah. What happened?
By the way, that's a great fucking story.
Tell me that, because I don't really know that part of it. So I left the project.
That's a good story. So you guys are going to love
Yeah, so this is what I want to hear. So Masters of the Universe, so that's the story I've always told you guys, right? Yeah. So that's all I know, because I left it. I didn't want to have anything to do with it afterwards, because I felt it was tainted that Neil Fuckface was still a part of it.
I love that I stood in front of you at the door.
So tell me what happened afterwards.
So Justin actually wrote a really good script.
He did.
And then we went, and I remember we went to Mattel a lot and we were working with them. And then Matt Riley was our executive at Warner Brothers. And there's a couple things. One, back to the IP conversation, I remember him going, what else do they have? What else do they have? And I was like, oh, they have Hot Wheels and Barbie. Right. He's like, we should get Hot Wheels. And this is when we were making Speed Racer. And I was like, Riley, why do you want another car movie? We're making Speed Racer. Right. And he's like, no, we got to get it. So we ended up getting Hot Wheels too, which I don't know. That's a different fun story. Yeah. But we're developing He-Man, write a great script. We gave it to Robinoff, who like just didn't read it. It was like sitting in his pile, like didn't
Masters or Hot Wheels?
Yeah, Masters. Okay. Sorry, yeah. And so what I did was we had been developing all this art with Mattel.
Yes,
Mattel
I remember.
had this art, and it was
a big board.
It was a room bigger than this, right? 2 of these, and they shipped over the panels. It was so much stuff that it cost like thousands of dollars just to have it brought over. That's how much stuff there was, and they were all on these panels, and we lined them up in our conference room over at Silver, all the way around and it was like weapons, characters, the world, magic, all this, all around, and it was tons of stuff. Yeah. The day Jeff Robinoff was supposed to come over to look at the art to get a sense of like, oh, Science of Magic like I did, right? That day, Nikki Fink busted him because in some meeting he said he didn't want to do female-driven action movies.
Okay.
Right? And so it was like this, oh, he's a sexist and blah, blah, blah. So he comes in, he opens the door. He just literally stands in the door. He goes like this. He just looks and he goes, can we call it She-Man? And turned around and walked away. And Joel looks at me and goes, well, that project's dead.
Wow.
That was it.
That was the end of it.
That was it. Just because he was pissed off and in a mood one day about whatever the hell.
And he wanted nothing to do with it. And well, and there's also and the also problem was Joel didn't know what the fuck it was either. Joel
but I look, I hear you, and I think Joel always says he believed in the Matrix. I don't know that he knew what that was back then either.
No, and he also, and honestly, I think he also blew the Wonder Woman thing too, because Wonder Woman,
Jennison Strickland did a World War II version.
100%. Do you remember what Joel said? It won't work in World War II.
Yeah.
Jennison Strickland's script was fantastic.
Yep.
It was great. I think it's better than the one that came out.
Right.
The script. Now, I think Pat Jenkins did an amazing job, and I just, the ending to me, okay, but the movie I really liked a lot. But their script was something special.
Yeah.
But Joel murdered it because he wanted it to be modern day, and then Captain America did it first once it came out.
Right.
But there was a lot of stuff that he didn't get, and I don't think anybody really understood Masters of the Universe, and still don't. That's why the live action hasn't worked. Did you watch any Kevin Smith's?
Kevin Smith's
Netflix?
Netflix? No.
So you just see it got a lot of controversy. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, it was tons of controversy because, and I talked, Griffin Newman, who plays Orko, was in here a couple weeks ago, and we talked about it. And I stand by what I said with it, is that I think people were going nuts because they think a lot of people felt that it was too woke, and that Tila is the one who, like, they wind up, again, spoilers for people who haven't seen Masters of the Universe. He-Man dies. Orko dies.
Wow.
But they're coming back. It's like, you're not going to kill He-Man. But the problem is, Netflix did something stupid. They released the first 6 episodes with no announcement of when the next 6 were coming out.
Well, you know they're making the movie.
Well, they talked about making the movie.
I heard who they cast last week.
Can you say?
I mean, I don't know why I can't
Why can't you say? You have nothing to do with it.
I know.
Who?
I mean, I hope it's okay that I say this. I heard.
You heard?
I heard. There's a new kid who's in West Side Story and something else. Some good-looking guy. That's
who? What's his name? There's tons of fucking people in West Side Story.
Hold on.
Not Ansel. Not Ansel.
No. It's some guy I've never heard of.
Okay.
Brand new. I'll tell you in 1 second. Hold on. Give me a sec. Talk about something else while I look.
Oh yeah.
Up.
So I'm curious because they were talking about. I mean, because the movie itself was pushed back from that Noah kid that they were going to put in. I never thought he was cast very well. But let's see. Let me show me this kid and tell me what the kid's name is.
I'm trying to find, because I remember looking.
Did you look at West Side Story IMDb?
Yeah. Look. No. You want me to do it?
Yeah, I can do it. West Side Story. That's great. West Side Story.
If I see the 2021 cast here we go.
Yep. Let's see, and I'll tell you right now. And
it's
this
not Ansel Elgort.
No, I'll tell you right now. So here's
Kyle Allen.
Kyle Allen is the kid's name?
Yeah.
Kyle Allen. All right, Kyle.
That's who I heard. I heard that from. I can't say.
The quarterback?
No. Look up
Kyle Allen, West Side Story.
Yeah, I had to look this kid up. I had no idea who he was.
Who is this kid?
I don't know.
So let's say there he is, Kyle Allen. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen him act, so I can't really say whether he's any good or not.
I'm gonna get killed for saying this.
Well, how do you know? How do people know? You know what I mean? Kyle Allen as
that's what I heard.
Maybe I should release this episode tomorrow before they announce Kyle Allen as He-Man. I could have broke it. Well, we'll see. We'll see if Kyle Allen, whether or not we figure it out or not. But either way, going back to the Masters of the Universe for Revelations, you know Tiffany Smith is a voice in it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but they were.
Oh, right. I know. I did see it.
So there was a lot of controversy that because Teal is essentially the lead of this series, right? I have no problem with that. My problem with it was I don't think it should have been the first episode. I think if you're going to reintroduce Masters of the Universe, like if we were sitting around at Silver and we're like, okay, well, here's our story, here's our arc. I would have said, and I said the same thing. I think that's a fun arc. I don't think you go in a series with it because you're waiting because here's all these people that are expecting this big kind of return for He-Man, and you're going to just kind of throw them to the side in the beginning. You're going to piss off a lot of people. Right. I said, I love the angle. I think the angle works. I think that people who are just bitching and complaining about it, in general, they're just bitching and complaining about it. But I do understand the bitching and complaining about if you think that that's the whole series and that's how you start with it. I think that could have been, if they would have done like 18 episodes, that could have been the middle.
Right.
And then you start with, here's the reintroduction to Eternia, because I think you're relying too much on people knowing everything that happened in the 80s, because it's a sequel to the 80s, but it's shot. Remember, my favorite one was the 2002 one. That's the one I always talk to you about. Yep. It's shot like that. It feels like that. It takes itself seriously, right? And there's some fucking cool moments in it. The music's great. Bear McCreary from Battlestar, and I think directing wise, I think Kevin did a great job. I think people are giving him a hard time on it, but I think overall, and now what's going to happen though is because they're going to have this back six that comes out. I think it's either the end of this year or the beginning. And He-Man's going to come back, and all this shit's going to happen. And then everyone's going to go, oh, well, they listened to everybody, and too late now, Kevin Smith. That's exactly what's going to happen. Right. But the point that out of all of this, though, to me, what I realize is that this shit works. Same thing I said to you. Masters of the Universe works as an IP. Yeah. And if it does, if this fucking kid can pull it off, if he even winds up getting it. Do you know what I mean? This has been like, you remember when they kept trying to do The Crow? Yeah. It's like The Crow. Yeah. People. You need the right person to figure it out. Yeah. And I just don't know if everyone's going to figure it out.
I mean, I'm glad we're talking about He-Man, but I'm of the mindset that, do you remember we used to joke that they're going to make Stairmaster the movie? Like, at some point, any good IP with a good story
they made Angry
it.
Birds, for God's sakes.
I know.
They make everything. But, all right, so I mentioned earlier Adam Winkleman, who was my roommate for a long time, best man at my wedding, and one of my really good friends. He's the one I told you guys about when the Wear a Jacket story a couple weeks back. You've heard that story.
Yep.
It's my favorite, one of my favorite stories of all time. So you were it's one of the reasons that you and I started talking about you coming on this show is I saw you on your buddy's podcast, and I was like, oh, Navid's got to come in and tell some stories. But you worked with Idris Elba, like, because Silver had put him on The Reaping, which if you look today, there's no fucking chance he's in that role. He's in David Morrissey's role. So
no, of course.
But and people should have seen that at that point. But and I just thought about something. Do you remember, this was before Modern Family, that Sofia Vergara came into
and sang me happy birthday?
She sang you happy birthday, and then we went into because that was it your birthday when we were in the conference room?
Yeah. And then Joel walked in and went, "Is that Navid's wife?"
Right. And he had no idea who Sofia Vergara was before she blew up. Yeah. And she was a sweetheart. Yeah, she was really nice. But anyway, I just remember that story. But so Idris Elba was working on The Reaping, and then because of that, had a connection then with Silver. Yeah. And is that how he got cast in Rock and Roll?
It might have also. I think Guy wanted him. I think Guy Ritchie, Guy knew him, and Guy cast that whole movie. Okay. Real quick, that script came to me. Rock and Roll came to me because Guy and I were developing the Dirty.
For people who didn't know, Navid produced Rock and Roll. So.
Oh yeah. But we were developing the Dirty Dozen, a remake of the Dirty Dozen with Guy.
Right. I remember that. Right.
And that's actually a very funny story too.
You gotta come back.
Oh, that's a really funny story. It has to do with Robert Downey and Guy and all that. So
I might have to have you close with that one today.
Okay, remind me later. So, but then Guy comes to me and he goes, "So I have the script. I really want to go do it while we're waiting for this rewrite that Zach Penn was doing on Dirty Dozen." And he goes, "Jason Statham's attached. Do you think you guys would make it?" And because we had the fun, the Dark Castle fun. Yeah. He goes, "Do you think you guys would make it?" And this is like when movie making's fun. I get the script, we read it that night. Literally the next day we go in and we tell Joel, we're like, "This is what it is."
It'd be an Amazon movie today.
Yeah. And it would. And Joel goes, "Great, go make it." Literally greenlit it. Didn't even read it. Greenlit it based off of us telling him what it was about and Guy Ritchie directing it. And he was like, "Cool, he's back to his old roots." Whatever. Right. So then we start casting. We cast. Statham couldn't do it timing wise, so we got Jerry, who had just done 300, and then Jerry's great, and then we cast around him. And Guy, this is how good he is at finding talent. He put Tom Hardy in it. He found Toby Kebbell. Yeah. He put Idris in when Idris was, he put him in one of the leads. Yeah. Like that. If you look at that cast,
it's a great cast, and it's a great soundtrack. I still listen to the soundtrack. I
produced the soundtrack.
Did you really? Yeah. It's a great soundtrack, dude. You know who what's her name? Wanda. Help me. One of those songs. Oh man, I listen to her all the time.
Oh, in Rock and Rolla?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, I can't remember, but
I don't
she's
watch
got
them
such a
so
great
long.
voice. But the soundtrack is amazing.
And so then we're on set.
Great cast. Yeah. So tell me. So Tom Hardy is unknown.
Completely unknown.
Completely unknown. He didn't really. I remember when I reviewed. I'm a big Tom Hardy fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Inception's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw it in the theater, and in the review, if you go back to watch a review on Schmoes, I call him the English guy,
Right,
or whatever he was. Like I didn't even know his name, and this was before that.
By the way, you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
A couple years later, because I worked on Black Hawk Down.
Yes.
And I looked up.
Did you really? Were you producing on that?
No, I was a studio exec, a young studio exec.
Did you know Ian Virgo?
I don't remember.
Okay, God.
So then I look and Tom was in it. Like I got him a start gift.
Yeah, he was in it.
I bought start gifts and I remember, and I had dog tags for him.
Yeah, he was wonderful. Sorry. So you're
anyway. So we're
Tom Hardy's on it. You're on set. So tell me a story.
So we're on
this
set.
is my favorite story.
And I wanted to like have a dinner party or something to get the cast, whoever wanted to come. So I called Winkleman and I said, Adam, can you call a couple places around London and make reservations so that we can get a bunch of people who want to go. So he called. Was it Gotcha Club? It was one of those private clubs. This was before Soho House was here and all that, right? So he calls one of these private clubs and he goes, "We're producing Rock and Rolla, and can we reserve a room or something?" And they're like, "Yeah, actually, Tom Hardy's a member here. We'll just put it under his name." I didn't even know that part, right? So they made reservations. And at about, I guess, at some point around midnight in London time or whatever, somebody calls Tom Hardy, because we didn't go to that one place, right? Somebody calls Tom Hardy, and they're like, "Are you going to come to your reservation?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Some guy named Adam called and made a reservation." So the next day, I'm standing with Joel and Aaron, who is Joel's assistant. And Aaron's standing there, and Joel and me, and Tom Hardy comes storming across the field, and he walks up and goes, "Who the fuck is Adam?"
And you didn't you call Winkleman at like 3 a.m. or something? Find out what was going on.
Yeah, I think that might have been what. But it was funny because Aaron was standing there like
Aaron, who was Joel's assistant. Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I'm Aaron." We didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and he turns to me. He's like, "Who made a fucking reservation?" And by this point, I think I started to put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, "Oh, wait." And I think like I stopped and was like, "Dude, I made a I think I don't remember exactly, but I think that, like I finally got him to calm down a little.
Oh,
and we
so
actually
good.
For a while were friends after that. But his face, "Who the fuck is Adam?"
I could see it. It's so good. It's so
Joel, to this day, every time I see Joel, he goes, "He was gonna kill you. He was gonna kill you."
So good. What's Joel doing now?
He's still producing. He just sold something to Sony that a friend of mine is producing with
But he
him.
doesn't have his company anymore, right?
No, he's getting divorced. Yeah.
Is he okay? Because Ethan runs his company now, which is
Well,
crazy.
yeah. Silver is now nothing to do with Joel.
Right.
It's a company with all
Is
the
it still
old
called
movies.
Silver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has all the old movies, and they're taking some of the movies that they made in finance, and there's one that they're doing as a TV show. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but unknown.
Yeah.
They're doing.
Oh,
it
yeah.
as a
No,
TV
I think Ethan talked about that.
Ethan
I feel like he did.
Yeah. I mean, Ethan's killing it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ethan's great. So people obviously, if you follow the Schmodown, Ethan, 2-time movie trivia Schmodown champion, runs Silver Pictures.
Yeah.
And
he was our CE when we were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there for a very long time, and he just, he waited. Remember, a lot of people said, like, "Shit, man, get the fuck out of there," and he waited, and look at him now. He runs the fucking company. So, all right, before we get out, tell me the story you were going to say with Downey.
Oh, so Guy was developing remake of Dirty Dozen, and he had this cast list in mind of who would play what guys, and Joel had this bug up his ass that Sean Penn should be one of the guys, right? And he kept saying like, "Sean Penn would be great as this guy, Sean Penn, Sean Penn, Sean Penn," and so Guy and Downey and Susan were at some party. And Robert went up to him and was like, "Oh, because Robert is obviously on the list of guys you want to talk to him about." And
this was before Iron Man.
It was before Iron Man, but he was on this list, and they were talking to Guy, and Guy's like, "Yeah, it's just kind of uncomfortable though, because every time we talk about the Dirty Dozen, Joel keeps saying he wants to put my wife's ex-husband in it." Nobody remembered that Sean Penn used to be married to Madonna, and at the time, Guy was married to her,
which is right.
and so. So nobody remembered. And Downey was like, oh, shit. And everybody had to go back to Joel and be like, stop talking about Sean Penn.
Yeah. That's
funny.
really fucking funny.
Nobody remembered.
My favorite story, though, ever was, and I don't know. I won't say, I don't know if he's ever told it on the air. So that I had heard like the Danny Elfman bird story. You've heard this story, right?
No.
There was that Joel wanted to, he had Danny Elfman in his office, and he was talking to him about that. I think it was a score for The Invasion.
Okay.
And he's telling him, he's like, I want it to be like a Hitchcock movie. I want it to be just like the birds. And Elfman's like, there's no soundtrack in that movie. No score in that movie. He's like, no, yeah, there is. You're nuts. Aaron, look it up. There's got to be, right? There's a soundtrack. And Joe, I looked it up. There's no soundtrack. Well, you know what I mean. I think Elfman quit like the next day.
Man,
but
funny.
Either way, so there's a lot of look. We only scratched the surface, man.
I have so many good
I know.
stories.
So you got to come back.
All right.
You come back for sure. So what are you working on right now? Is anything? Can we talk about?
Funny enough, yeah. Speaking of silver, Eric Olson, and I right before COVID.
Eric, for those people, so Eric Olson was my old boss who wound up becoming a good buddy of ours and a producer on a lot of different movies. House of Wax, was an Orphan, a lot of movies that he did.
The Motley Crue movie.
He did the Motley Crue, The Dirt. So he's doing a lot.
Book of Eli.
Yes.
So Olson calls me up right before COVID. This was like January of last year, and he goes, "Hey, let's go do this thing with our friend at Universal, right? One of their titles." So we were like, "All right," and we set that up and started developing that. And then COVID happens, and during that time, we've sold 10 things. So that maybe more now. But that one thing started just going, "Hey, how about let's do this one? Let's do this one." And now we're casting between us. We're casting 7 movies. We've sold 10 or 11 of them. Including that big title that I can't talk about. And then, I mean, hopefully next year we'll be making at least 2 or 3 of them.
Can you talk about the one? I don't know if it's the person that we worked with together that was in. If you're not talking about, it's a person who might direct. Not sure if she's going to direct or not.
Wait, which one?
I don't want to give it away because you're not allowed to talk about it.
Wait, which one?
My friend, a friend of mine that you met through me.
Might direct.
Yeah, aren't you working with anybody that I know? Because if
can you just say?
I don't. If I guess if I don't want to get you in trouble, I'll say it.
Go ahead.
Iliza.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, I forgot it. Yes, I knew I met Iliza through you. Yes. I think I can talk about that.
Yeah.
There's
Iliza Shlesinger and yourself.
There's a comedy that I developed with Amit Zappa and a couple great writers, and it's loosely based on a true story about those nuns that stole money from the church and went to Vegas.
Okay. And she'd be one of the nuns?
She wants to direct it.
Okay.
And so right now she's directing, starring, but so here's the thing. I happened to be with my buddy who runs Kevin Hart's company one night at dinner, and I was like, you should read the script. He read it. They loved it, and they go, can we send it to Netflix and produce it with you? So Netflix wants to.
There you go.
Well, Netflix wants to do it. I don't know if Netflix is going to let her direct and star. She's probably going to have to pick one.
What do you think she'll choose? I think she's
going to go pitch her take as soon as the deals haven't even started.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't talk about it because the deals haven't even started yet, but she will go pitch her directorial take
That's awesome.
to them.
Good for her. And then Katie, I talked to Katie Sackhoff last week. She said she ran into you recently, not too long ago, I guess.
It was a couple of years ago.
Oh, it was a couple of years ago? Yeah. She made it seem it was recent. I don't know. To her, I mean, look, it's 2 years went by like this.
Well, COVID doesn't count.
It went like that. It doesn't count. It was great to see you, dude.
You too.
We got to do it again. It took you, 20 minutes to get over here? Half an hour?
Half hour, yeah.
That's not that bad.
No. Dude, I love doing this. I come talk about
let's
movies
do
all
it.
the time.
This will be fun to do. And as there's a lot more stories, and then, it's not like you're working somewhere that someone's going to you can't get fired for telling me who He-Man is.
No, I might. Netflix might call me up and want to cut my head off.
Well, are they doing the movie?
Isn't Netflix doing the movie? I'm pretty sure it was Netflix.
And Netflix is doing a movie now too, so I don't think any of that was interesting.
Oh boy.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if sometimes people don't even pick it up. So whether or not it might not even get picked up, and I won't lead that.
And I heard it so like third hand
through the grapevine.
Yeah.
We'll see. we'll see.
I just looked it up because that guy was like, "Who the fuck is this?
Who's
guy?
that guy?"
Yeah.
No one knows who he is. All right, listen, guys. So make sure you check out. Are you? Is anywhere they can? Is you're promoting anything as far as right now where they should go to check things out, or right now just check out? Wait for your movies to come out.
Just wait for my movies.
Wait for your movies to come out. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Once again, a reminder that tomorrow, Mark Ellis, I'll be probably popping into the New York Comedy Club in Manhattan. So make sure you check that out. Go over there. But I'm definitely going to be there on October 8th. And then October 9th, we're doing the Schmodown. It is our last New York event that we're going to be doing for Schmodown in quite a while. There's going to be no New York shows in 2022. So get your tickets if you're going to be around. If you've ever thought about coming to a Schmodown, you should do it now. But again, thank you to Navid McIhilargey. Thank you to you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts are found. And don't you forget about that Butcher Box.
Yeah.
The link's in the description. You're going to love it. Get it. And thank me afterwards. All right, guys. Friday, by the way, is the Spider-Man 2 rewatch with myself, Coy, and Winston. Check that shit out. All right, peace.